So, whoops. That was one of the mistakes I was making. I was trying to actually give it the full database name in maintenance database. So, whoops. And one thing that was nice about this was I was able to get PsychoPG2 to actually work. That was a little victory for me because I didn't want to resort to using SQL Alchemy. That's kind of like a further abstraction of some of these tools that I was looking to use. So it's awesome that we can stick with PsychoPG2. So I'm trying to just test writing a row to my Postgres table, and I'm seeing that tuples are being inserted. They're coming in. However, we are still not able to find the table that we created. Aha. Okay, so I was creating a crucial step. After I was inserting into the table, I did not use the commit method on that object, so I was seeing inserts, but then they were not being actually committed to the database. So that was a very important step that I was forgetting. So we have a Redshift database that's going to store all of our records, which will be different posts that I make. And there's going to be links to S3 objects that's going to pull in for those different posts. So next up, let's configure this to point to an S3 object. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and delete this test table that I made, and we're not gonna wanna be creating tables in any of these methods. Actually, I'm gonna wanna define these tables beforehand, and then as we move forward, I'm just gonna be inserting records into that table. I'm now ready to create a new table. So I have a little query here that's going to create all of the columns that I will end up needing for this particular application. So you can see it was successful. I should now, if I refresh this table, I should see that new table with those columns. There won't be any data in it yet, but it's ready to be populated. Yep, so there you go. You can see all my columns here, and we will begin filling in these columns eventually. So I need a static file storage system that I can use to save my text as well as my images. So I'm going to create an S3 bucket for that. Okay, so I need to create 3 different records that I'm going to use as kind of examples for testing out the front page here. One of the really nice things about pgadmin is it allows you a graphical user interface to actually change some of these. So I think I'll need to change the title at least. So let's just make this 75. Okay, yep, we have 3 rows inserted into our database. Now in our web application, let's pull those in and display those images and display the titles. This is really important here. It's good practice to not use select star when you're pulling from a database. Make sure you specify your columns, otherwise you're going to break stuff. We are able to retrieve those records now in our application. You can see here it's returning 3 tuples. We just need to process this data and extract out exactly what we're looking for. Alright, so at long last, we now have a method to pull in our data from our Redshift database and store it into a dictionary. The next step is to step through each entry in this dictionary and plot it on the front end. Okay, so all I had to do was find these objects and make them public. Now let's try this again. Okay, there we go. We have our thumbnail images. We should do some formatting to make sure that they don't take up too much room, but we are looking good. Okay, so now we have our content centered in each of the 3 columns. One thing we probably should be doing is setting the image size before we even upload those, just to make sure everything stays consistent. Or if we really want to, we can fix it with some formatting on the HTML side. I'm trying to get the slug information passed back. When you click on a link, I want it to be passed back into this particular method so that I can then search for it in the Redshift database and then display that content on the front end. Oh yeah, so one other cool thing I did was I noticed I was going to need this database connection a bunch of times, so I split this out into its own separate method. So we are able to open this page successfully. You can see there's the thumbnails that we're pulling from S3. There are the links that we're pulling from Redshift, and let's see what happens when we push on one of them. Okay, so we have all the data being pulled in correctly for this particular slug. Now I just need to pull in the HTML file from S3. Okay, in order to actually import my HTML file from S3 and insert it into another HTML file, I think I will need to use some JavaScript for this. Okay, so we have figured out the bug. Essentially what was happening was the local file restrictions on our browser was blocking what we were trying to pull in from Amazon S3. So how we got around that was we're testing locally, so I have that disabled for now. I do not believe that was an issue in the past applications that I've developed. I think that sorts itself out once you deploy it. Plus, it's easier to kind of configure that stuff. It took me a long time to figure out what was going on here. I ended up trying all different kinds of browsers. I tried Chrome, I tried Safari. Eventually there was a nice setting in Safari that allowed me to turn that setting off. So yeah, let's move on to other exciting features of this. So just a quick recap of where we are right now. We have our web server set up. We have 3 sample articles here. We have the thumbnail stored in S3. We have the title pulled in through Amazon Redshift. And these are now clickable. So if I go ahead and click on one, we will pull in the article information from Redshift. That includes the title, the date, the author, as well as content, which is stored in S3 as an HTML file. Have a good day. Bye.